Welcome back to Birds of a Feather. This is your daily Baltimore sports podcast. My name is Nathan Stroud, and today we're going to be going over this Ravens and Texans game. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, it is not looking good in the slightest right now when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens. It's looking horrible. This was one of the worst losses I've ever seen as a fan of this team. It's one of the worst losses in Ravens history. It's actually tied, I think, for the third biggest loss in the history of the franchise. Happy 30th anniversary to the Ravens, by the way. There's a lot to go over in this game. Well, to be honest with you, there's really not a lot to go over in this game. Short story, the Ravens got absolutely destroyed today by the Houston Texans, and it was one of those things where yesterday I talked about it. I said that this was a possibility. I said that this could happen, but I also obviously said that I thought that the offense was going to be able to stay into it a lot longer, and I thought the offense was going to be able to do more than they did. But as we expected with this Ravens defense, I really do actually believe that this is the worst. This might be one of the worst defenses I've ever seen in NFL history. It might go down as one of the worst defenses ever because what I'm watching with this Ravens defense week after week continues to absolutely stun me with how horrible they are. Obviously, I understand the injuries. I understand that the Ravens were dealing with a ton of injuries this game, but this is not a talent thing. This is a scheme thing, and it's being shown clear as day right now. Even if the Ravens, guys were out there, even if our defense was out there, we would have prevented 10 points or something like that. It's a scheme thing. Zach Orr is not putting the players on the field in a position to succeed on defense, and it's completely obvious. The scheme on defense is absolutely so incredibly bad. The players on the fields look like they have no idea what they're doing, and it's because of where the scheme is, because of the play calling on defense and all that stuff. And also, I'll say this about John Harbaugh. I think Harbaugh's completely lost the Ravens locker room. I think that a lot of players are kind of over him. I think that he's completely lost the team. So you kind of have an extremely big coaching issue alongside a very big injury issue, alongside just a ton of other problems. On the offensive side, it was horrible as well. The run game couldn't get going at all. Cooper Rush threw 3 interceptions in this game. It was god-awful. It was horrible. The only touchdown the Ravens scored was Cooper Rush had a big play to Zay Flowers, where Zay Flowers went down at the 4-yard line, and then we were able to run in with Derrick Henry. But that was the only touchdown that the Ravens had today. So the offense couldn't move at all. They had a pretty good first drive, and obviously the touchdown drive, and that was it. Every other drive was god-awful. Again, Cooper Rush threw 3 interceptions in this game. You also go and look at the defense, who obviously gave up 44 points in this game. Really no good plays at all. C.J. Stroud was 23 for 27 with 4 touchdown passes. Everyone he was throwing to was open. I really can't even put into words how bad this defense is. Not from a talent perspective, because this is not a talent issue at all. Even the guys that are out there on the field today, there was a ton of first-round picks, there was still a lot of talented players on the field. There was still guys like Calvin Noy who went out there and got a sack today. There was still guys like Adafe Oye out there, Malachi Starks, some of the undrafted free agents that we had. There's guys out there that have proven themselves and had talent, like Jair Alexander was out there and all that stuff. So, again, there was proven talent out there. There was first-round pick talent out there. But this is not a talent issue, because we've seen this Ravens defense play horrible. Not like this, because, again, when you mix in the horrible defensive coordinator plus all the injuries, it kind of does not mix well, obviously, into a disaster of a defense like we saw today. But even if guys like Roquan and Kyle and Madubuike were out there and healthy, we would still see this Ravens team on defense collapse in these moments. We're just banking on the talent of these defensive guys, and that's it. And you cannot bank on the talent of defensive guys and just leave it there. You have to have a good defensive coordinator that puts them in a position to win and puts them in a position to succeed with their skills. And Zach Orr is doing the complete opposite of that. I'm going to be honest, he might be the worst defensive coordinator in NFL history. And we actually have some very fun quotes, and I'll just say this now before we go over the game. Post-game, John Harbaugh went up there and said the same BS that he said every single week at this point, talking about how, they have to fix it, they have to do better, they have to take accountability, blah, 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 all this stuff. We've heard this so many times with John Harbaugh, but we kind of really fail to see any sort of results when it comes to these types of performances in games. And I will say, we don't really see these types of performances from the Ravens often. This is like the biggest Ravens loss in like 12 years or something. This was the worst Ravens game in a long time. It was a disaster on both sides of the ball, mainly on the defense, obviously, with everything that happened there. And then they would like zoom in on Lamar Jackson on the sideline, and he looks absolutely defeated because he knows even whenever he does come back from his injury that he's literally going to have to score every single play as long as Zach Orr is the defensive coordinator and as long as these injuries are going to stay. But one thing that I will say is that after the game, John Harbaugh went up there again, said the same thing that he usually says, no, just like a nothing sandwich, just nothing really going on. But also, John Harbaugh did say that getting rid of Zach Orr is not the answer to things, and obviously he's like, what we need to do is, lock in more and just figure things out. Instead of actually firing Zach Orr, which maybe the plan is to fire John Harbaugh, both of them need to go. I'm going to be honest, both of them need to pack their bags and be out of here, because right now, I like the Ravens organization is always kind of, held themselves to a very high standard. Obviously, this Ravens team was the Super Bowl favorites heading into the season, and we're sitting at 1-4 heading into Week 5, where we play the Rams. Very, very disappointing season so far. We can very well be 1-5 heading into our bye week, and to be honest with you, I didn't even think that was possible. But Zach Orr and this defense and these injuries have really shown me the way right now, and let's just go over this Ravens disaster. So going over this Ravens game, obviously it is a mess. It is an absolute mess. Just going over in general for the Ravens offense. Cooper Rush went 14 for 20 with 179 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions in this game. One of them was bobbled by Mark Andrews into the air. That was an interception, so I'm not going to blame Cooper Rush for that one, but still 3 interceptions on the resume for him. Took a sack for 16 yards. And then going over to the rushing game, nothing happened with this rushing game. Once again, the Ravens cannot get the running game going, whether that's Derrick Henry's fault, whether that's the scheme's fault, whether that's the offensive line not really giving them the chance. From my end, from watching the game, I would see Derrick Henry get the ball and then immediately be met in the backfield and literally, again, have to try and fight his way just to get like 1 or 2 yards. He didn't really have any holes. Again, 7 yards was his longest run. He had 15 carries for 33 yards and a touchdown. An absolutely horrible stat line for Derrick Henry, 2.2 yards per carry. But again, I'll tell you this right now. Do I think that Derrick Henry, like Father Time is starting to hit Derrick Henry? Maybe. Maybe he doesn't seem as explosive, but at the same time, he doesn't really seem as explosive because it just kind of feels like he's getting the ball and can't really move. And it could be a mix of him getting older and, him starting to regress. It could be a mixture of that and the offensive line. I really do think that the offensive line is the issue because we literally saw Derrick Henry in week 1, and we've seen him throughout the season have his moments where if he can get a hole, he can finish the job and do his thing. But Derrick Henry today would literally get the ball and get instantly kind of just met in the backfield. And the Texans are a very physical defense. They're a very great defense as well, and they play with a lot of physicality today. I'm going to give them credit. They went out here and got the job done. Their offense has looked very shaky over the past, first 4 weeks of the season, and they went out there today. And CJ Stroud got his get-right game, and I literally said this throughout the week. I said that I'm scared that the Texans have been playing bad all year. We understand that they're a good team, and they're facing also a defense that kind of is going to give them the opportunity to play well. And the Texans went out and did that exact thing. They went out there, had their get-right game. They played very well. C.J. Stroud went crazy. But they played very physical on defense. They were hitting Derrick Henry very hard. He was getting smacked around all over the field and just couldn't really move much in this game. But overall, the game script for the Ravens was kind of just out of it. You know what I mean? The game script didn't really favor the running game anyway. But we still did give Derrick Henry opportunities, but he didn't really do anything with them. And again, whether that's his fault, whether that's the O-line's fault, it was not anything to produce. Keaton Mitchell didn't really do anything. Justice Hill didn't do anything. I'm going to be honest with you guys, nobody really did anything in this game. But going over to the receiving, Zay Flowers had 5 catches for 72 yards. He continues to play well this year. Again, you can tell the leap that he made. Cooper Rush had a deep ball to Zay Flowers, and that was probably the best play of the day in terms of offense for the Ravens. But that was really cool to see from Zay. Had a 56-yard catch. DeAndre Hopkins had a couple of really good plays in this game. Had 2 catches for 46 yards. Mark Andrews had 2 catches for 22 yards. He also had he fumbled the ball in the air and then it led to an interception. Isaiah Likely had 1 catch for 12 yards, so he finally gets on the board with his first catch of the season. Charlie Kohler has 1 catch for 10 yards. And again, you just go down the line, and Rashad Bateman didn't even get a catch today. But if you just go down the line here, you can just tell that the offense just suffered so much from not having Lamar Jackson, and also just the pressure that the defense put on the offense, and with the coaching and everything, you combine everything and it's just a complete disaster. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, if you thought that this week was bad, if we don't have Lamar next week, it probably is going to get even worse, because we're playing a better team than the Texans in the Rams next week, and they have 2 wide receivers that could absolutely destroy this team. But again, we'll see what happens with that. But going overall to the complete team stats of the game, the Texans dominated time of possession 36 minutes to 23 minutes. They had 27 first downs to the Ravens' 12. They were 7 for 12 on third down compared to 3 for 8 on third down for the Ravens. They had 66 total plays to the Ravens' 40. They had 417 total yards compared to the Ravens' 208. Both teams had 10 total drives. Obviously, the Texans had more yards per play. The Texans had more passing yards, 250 compared to 163. In terms of rushing, the Texans had more rushing, 167 rushing yards compared to the Ravens' 44 rushing yards. Red zone, Texans were 4 for 5 in the red zone. And then in penalties, the Ravens had 9 penalties for 49 yards. So the penalties were there, the bad defense was there, the bad offense was there, the bad coaching was there. It was all going wrong for the Ravens today. And again, like J.J. Watt and Ian Eagle on the broadcast team today, they were kind of saying it's just one of those days. But to be honest with you guys, it's really not just one of those days. This is kind of becoming like the norm with the Ravens, because last week against the Chiefs, we got absolutely killed thanks to our defense and also just a very, not consistent offense. And then this week, with no Lamar and no, leaders on defense, we get absolutely killed in this game, even worse than last week. And next week might even be worse than this week. So just a very weird thing of events going on right now when it comes to the Ravens. Once again, the Ravens lost the turnover battle, 3 turnovers to 0. The Ravens had 3 turnovers. The Texans had 0. 3 interceptions thrown by Cooper Rush in this game. Just a absolute complete disaster. And again, as I said earlier, John Harbaugh post game was kind of just saying how he needs, it's up to the coaches to figure it out, and that getting rid of Zach Orr is not really what needs to happen. It's more of just kind of figuring out what's wrong. Nate Wiggins on defense in an interview today said that he thinks that the defense is not far from really figuring things out and becoming elite again. I don't really know how true that is, but you know what I mean. We'll just kind of take his word for that and just kind of move forward. Because at this point, you kind of just want to see results when it comes to this Ravens team, because we're 1-4. We're probably going to be 1-5 next week if Lamar Jackson is hurt, because these defensive injuries are probably going to stay, other than the Kyle Hamilton one and maybe the Chidobe Awuzie one. All these injuries are going to stay, but I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. This defense is not going to get any better in terms of overall consistency and finding a rhythm on defense. It is not going to get better until Zach Orr gets fired. As long as Zach Orr is the defensive coordinator, this defense will continue to play like absolute garbage, and he will continue to put players in a horrible position to succeed. So again, we're just going to have to take this one on the chin, guys, and just move forward because, again, we knew that this was a possibility, but this game on all sides was a complete and utter disaster. Again, one of the worst losses in Ravens history. It was disgusting. Like, I'm genuinely sick looking at this game and how it went, just because, again, the expectations we had. And if you told me that we'd be 1-4 after 5 weeks of the season, I would have called you absolutely insane. But here we are. I guess the good news is that Lamar Jackson was standing on the sideline today. He was standing for pretty much the entire game up until the end. So maybe that hamstring is going to start feeling better. Obviously, we'll see how he fares in practice this week, if he can get some practices in, and we'll see what happens this week. But I'm not going to lie, we're really going to need Lamar Jackson if we want any sort of chance to actually put points on the board, because we are not doing anything with Cooper Rush, and also not having Ronnie Stanley does affect a lot of things. Plus, the offensive line play with our two guards in Falele and Voorhees is just not good either. So the offensive line's not been playing great. Obviously, Lamar Jackson makes it even. Not having Lamar makes it worse. So just again, like I can't begin to even explain how much of a disaster this game was. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Baltimore sports so far have been a mess. I mean, you look at the Orioles season, high expectations, dealt with some injuries, dealt with some just team connectivity problems, and just collapsed. And ended the year how like they did. This season, the Ravens, literally the Super Bowl favorites. You have your MVP quarterback. The defense goes out there and plays like garbage every single game, forces pressure on the offense, and if anything goes wrong with the offense, then it's not going to work. Then you add on the defensive injuries, then you add on the offensive line injuries, you add on the offensive line play, and then you add on the quarterback injury, and it's just a mess, guys. I'm not going to sit here and say Todd Monken's play calling was bad, because at the end of the day, I really don't even blame the offense. I mean, the defense let up 44 points in the game. Like, it's actually like laughable how bad this defense is. And also another stat that I saw earlier is that this defense is actually on pace to be the first defense in NFL history to give up 600 points in a season. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No. Because after the bye week, because if we go in here and look at our schedule, we play the Rams next week. We play the Rams next week in Los Angeles. No, sorry, we play them in Baltimore next week. And then we go on our bye week after next week. So we play the Rams, which we're probably going to get killed because they have a way better offense than the Texans did. And you saw what the Texans just did today. So we go into a bye week after this Rams game. And then we come out of our bye week and play Chicago, Miami, Minnesota, Cleveland, New York, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, New England. So that stretch right there is very winnable games. So we'll see what injuries we get back during the bye, and we'll see how we fare. We'll see if we'll make any coaching changes and kind of move forward with the season there. We'll see if we make any trades or moves to try and get better. But again, I really don't believe that it's a talent thing, but I do think that they should go out there and try and get a D tackle or an edge rusher just to have more pressure on the QB, because again, we're not getting enough pressure and the defense is just not doing enough. It feels like every single time they throw the ball, it's open. The run, they can't stop the run, can't stop the pass, can't get to the QB, so they just can't do anything. So I think going out and maybe trading for a good edge rusher or a good D tackle could be a possibility, but at the same time, that stretch of games that I named were Chicago, Miami, Minnesota, Cleveland, New York, the Jets, the New York Jets, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, New England. That stretch right there is very, very winnable games, and that's why I do believe that if we can somehow win next week against the Rams and be 2-4, I do believe that we can salvage our season in these final 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games of the season. But I'm not going to lie, we really do need to win next week against the Rams, because if we're 1-5, we're cooked. And I'll say this, if we're 1-5 and Lamar Jackson comes back after the bye week and he leads this team to a 10-7 record and gets us to the wild card, I'm not going to lie, he deserves MVP just off of that. Kind of like how Joe Burrow could carry that Bengals team to the playoffs, and if he did, then he probably should have won MVP, but obviously they didn't make the playoffs. But again, just a very disgusting performance by the Ravens today. We do play the Rams next week, which is probably going to be even worse than what happened today, but hopefully we can get a miracle win next week, go into our bye, get the injuries back, make some changes in terms of the coaching, and then regroup as a team and move forward from there. That's all you can really say as of right now as a fan, but that's just kind of where they stand right now. But thank you guys so much for tuning into and listening to this episode of Birds of a Feather. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow up on Spotify, make sure to follow the Twitter and the Instagram as well if you click the link in the bio of whatever platform that you're listening on. And if you're on YouTube or listening on Spotify, obviously YouTube at BOAF Official, Spotify, you can type in Birds of a Feather and go to the podcast section. For Twitter, at BOAF Podcast, and then for Instagram, at Birds of a Feather Podcast Official. Make sure to give all those a follow. If you're on YouTube, you can see it on your screen, and also you can click the link in the bio, whatever platform you're listening on, to take you to these socials. So make sure to go follow the socials. Make sure to subscribe and follow to the Spotify. It's going to be a long season, guys. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be a super long season, but we're in this together. We're gonna get through this together. We're gonna figure out this Ravens season, because there is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, but right now it is looking very, very rough. But we'll see how this season continues. But I will have an episode up sometime tomorrow night, kind of probably just recapping this game more and maybe going over some post-game interviews and stuff like that. So I'll have an episode up tomorrow. I'll see you guys later. You have a great sales day. Go Ravens, and I'll see you later. Peace out.